never been my road.
Hi, I'm Larry London. This is Border Crossings. On today's show, something for country music fans. Ray Scott is on tour for his 5th CD, Guitar for Sale, and he's also promoting a new honky tonk album. Ray Scott has appeared on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry an amazing 44 times, and he'll stop by on today's Border Crossings to perform new music and one of his biggest hits. As a songwriter, Ray Scott has penned music for music giants like Clay Walker and Randy Travis. He speaks candidly about his love life and mentions how the end of his marriage almost cost him his own life. Stay tuned for the music of country star Ray Scott coming up on Border Crossings. Hi, I'm Larry London. Welcome to Border Crossings. And today in our studios, we welcome a country musician who's on tour for his latest EP. And we're also going to get into a little bit about a brand new EP as well. Ray Scott is here in Washington, D.C., and he joins us today on The Voice of America. Welcome, Ray.
Yeah, thanks for having me, just like I tell my mom.
She had you.
Exactly.
So welcome, guys. It's nice to have you here in our studios. First of all, where are you from originally? I couldn't find out.
I was born in Danville, Virginia.
Okay.
I grew up in a little town in North Carolina, just below the state line. It's called Samora, population around 1,000 people. That number never changes because every time a baby's born, some guy leaves town. So, yeah.
Has it always been country music for you?
You know, well, I should say yes, but I have to say no because I did go through a period in my teens and early 20s where I kind of rebelled against. My dad was a singer, and he really pounded the country music into me when I was a kid. And when you're a kid, you rebel. And for a little while there, I got into the hard rock and metal and that kind of stuff. But when I started taking the career path of a musician, songwriter anyway, it didn't take me long to kind of realize that my sensibilities as a writer and my voice, were a whole lot more suited for country music. And so once I decided that, I was probably maybe 22, 23 years old, and then I was off to the races, headed to Nashville. So.
I hate it when a guest has a deeper voice than mine. I'm always jealous. How long have you had that?
I sound just like my mom. So
yeah, right.
It's funny. I guess maybe 15, 16 years old, I started sounding like this.
Because that changes everything. When you've recorded songs in a certain sound, and then all of a sudden it's the fans say, "Whoa, that's not the Ray I know."
Yeah, well, it's not Billy Gilman you're talking to right now. So, and it has been an advantage, but for years I wasn't the greatest singer necessarily. I knew I had a sound, but it doesn't matter what kind of voice you have, you got to learn how to use it. So, it's a level playing field, trust me.
Well, that's a great segue into the first song. I mean, I want to hear how you use your voice. So we got your guitarist with you. What's your name?
Cade.
Nice to meet you, Cade. Welcome, guys. It's great to have Cade and Ray Scott in our studio. So if you wouldn't mind doing a song for us.
All right.
What is this one called?
Well, the album that you mentioned that we are promoting at the moment still came out about 14 months ago. It's called Guitar for Sale, and this is guitar for sale. Guitar for sale.
I like that song. I like that. It's a little sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little sad. Now, when I first heard, and I know it's your fifth album, the title track from the fifth album. When I first heard Guitar for Sale, that sounds to me like you're parting with something. The end of the career, the end of the way, you're doing something. You know, it's a goodbye to something. So when you wrote that, what was it from?
Well, you know, it's kind of an honest. I think when you're a musician and the thing that made me realize that it was okay to record the song was for a long time. I probably wrote this song maybe 6 years ago, and for the longest time, I thought that only musicians could relate to it. You know, but really at the end of the day, it's about any kind of a career that can take you away from your loved ones and essentially create that, you know, that space or that distance. You know, I've, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit I'm on my third marriage, and the music business does not help in those situations or any kind of business where you're just not around, you know. So it came from a place where I thought at one point, this was with my ex-wife, you know, there were some issues and troubles, and you know, we eventually did split up. But, you know, there was a time when I considered, you know, trying to lay it down. And, you know, I realized eventually, you know, that this is just what I do, and I just needed someone who could pretty much deal with that, you know, and which I have found now. But, you know, I think any musician who has done this for a number of years, especially ones that have maybe limited success, who are still struggling financially and whatever else, you know, that's a thought that probably enters a lot of them's mind, whether they want to admit it or not, you know. And it's because it makes it tough on relationships, for one thing, you know, among the other issues. But, you know, so that's kind of where it came from. I knew it would be thought-provoking. I knew that people would ask me, are you going to give it up, you know, when I put it out there. I figured, well, hey, at least somebody's got an interview question, you know. But, yeah, so, I mean, the answer is it's not, you know, I'm not saying goodbye to anything.
Well, that's good.
But it is something that definitely crossed my mind more than once.
Wow. Well, that, you know, it's a heartfelt story, and it's truly personal. Are all the songs on this EP coming from the same place?
My stuff comes from all over the map. Some of them are. This particular album that it's a full-length album. You know, it's kind of ranging in there's a number of years that go into the songwriting process on this one. There were a few songs I've kind of had in my back pocket for a while that I hadn't put on an album yet that I wanted to record, a couple of which that were recorded towards an earlier album that I recorded for Warner Brothers, who you know, who I parted ways with before that album was released. So, you know, I basically kind of re-recorded a couple of things that I'd recorded years ago, and you know, it's kind of a compilation of a lot of some of my favorites over the years. There's one song on the album that's 14 years old, so so they don't all come from the same place. Aside from my brain, that's about it.
Was there a lot of pressure on you coming out of the gate over a dozen years ago with a major label? I mean, your first album with Warner that's a lot of pressure to be on a major to start.
You know, at the time I didn't see it as pressure. I kind of saw it as an opportunity. But you know, being, you know, we're living in an age now where country music is definitely not. It doesn't sound the same as what I grew up to define it as. And evolution is you know, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. But, you know, when I came out with a single. It was fairly polarizing, not only in the sense of its style, but also language and you know, whatever. I mean, it wasn't anything that was going to be offensive to people, but it was a recitational song, which you know, kind of really wasn't being done at the moment. Now, I call it recitational. Kids these days would call it rap. You know, it's a little different style, but it was more in the style of Jerry Reed and Johnny Cash and some of those guys that did the actual talking song.
Easy speak or whatever they called it way back
exactly.
then.
And I figured out years ago that it's something I could do. I mean, that's one thing about getting a deal, whether you're independent or whether you're with a major label. You got to figure out a way to set yourself apart. There's a lot of people out there that are doing things that seem very much like the next guy, and I've never really subscribed to that philosophy. So
a couple of the artists you just mentioned, very big in honky tonk. You are working on something. I understand something special for the very near future, which is connected to honky tonk.
Yeah, it's a new EP. It's going to be a 5-song project. It's called Honky Tonk Heart. Now, and the title track is going to be the first single, which I will play.
Oh, good.
And it's it's kind of an homage to all of the troubadours out there who are out there in the small venues and the bars and whatever else, playing traditional country music, playing the real stuff, the gritty stuff, the kind of stuff that I like, which is also kind of the kind of stuff that that radio really doesn't play these days, not in the mainstream. And it's that's definitely not a jab at anybody.
Sure.
It's just there's a counterculture that has kind of taken shape over the last few years. Because there is a big, long list of people out there that really like that style of music, and they're not getting it on mainstream. So thank goodness for the internet and Pandora, Spotify, everywhere you can.
Right.
You find. I mean, I got a lot of help. For instance, the last few years from Sirius XM. They played 3 of my songs in pretty heavy rotation. Which kind of gave me a career bump, because after the Warner days, when I left that label, I was independent and completely independent for a while, and I went to Europe, luckily, and found some work here and there, kind of kept the lights on for a while, and I love playing overseas, but we were luckily able to get some help from John Marks at the time with XM, and kind of bring us to where we are now.
It's a different industry. If you just think back about the days of Elvis Presley and Roy Orbison and all of the pioneers, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have that benefit. They just had Sam Phillips or somebody, some record label, Sun Records or whatever, just playing their records way back then. And
they had a really imposing guy walking to a radio station threatening to break legs.
That's it. And now
you
can be discovered many different ways.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned,
social media
yes,
is a big thing these days. And I'm kind of, I'm not this generation, so it's a little less. It takes me a little more time to kind of get the grasp and really get into the thick of it, where my nieces are like 13 years old and they're kicking my butt on social media. But it's a lot of fun, and anymore it's just completely necessary. I don't care if you're a music artist or you have a printing business or if you're a restaurant. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If you figure out how to successfully promote yourself on social media, then you're going to do better than the next guy.
That's right. It's hard to sell albums these days. I read where this year has been a horrible year for record sales.
No, and I sell physical CDs mostly just at live shows. But as far as people, people do order them from my website. They'll get them from Amazon or whatever. But we're in limited print with those because we realize we're going to end up with boxes and boxes. Because folks want to stream music these days. They want to, people don't even go to iTunes anymore the way they used to.
Spotify and
yeah. So so folks out there just kind of have to realize, I guess, how we make our living, and there's a lot of people that go and get it and stream it and whatever else. We've seen the careers of numerous, many songwriters in Nashville kind of, go down the toilet because they can't make a living at it anymore because it just doesn't pay like it used to. And so, they are trying to pass some new laws with the government to kind of get that changed so that, so that everybody doesn't continue to suffer.
Right.
But, it's just like anything else, you have to kind of learn to adapt to the times, and be a survivor. I mean, that's
name of the game.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to give away another free song now, if you don't mind.
All right. All right.
Ray Scott, would you play a song for us?
Absolutely.
What's this one?
This is going to be the new single coming here pretty soon. It's called Honky Tonk Heart. I got a honky tonk heart, and it's known to roll hard down a long dark highway to another station play in one more smoky bar. I got me a honky tonk heart. Y'all know what I came to do, rock you and you and you. Help that whiskey go down smooth while you shake off a long week blue. You don't know how much alike we are. I got me a honky tonk heart. I got a honky tonk heart, and it's known to roll hard down a long dark highway to another station place in one more smoke bar. I got me a honky tonk heart. Oh, play a little guitar, Dave. I worked my butt off on Music Road, trying to get on the radio. Like Alan said, those wheels turn slow. I had to tell them all where to go. When they tried to make me a pop star, I got me a honky tonk heart. Yeah, I got a honky tonk heart, and it's known to roll hard down a long dark highway to another station place in one more smoky bar. I got me a honky tonk heart. Yeah, I ain't no fake old country star. I got me a honky tonk heart. Oh, and I love a little more guitar now. Love to hear a little picking like that.
There it is. I had to wait for that final note. There it is. Ray Scott's in our studios here, live on the Voice of America. So was it songwriting first or singing first? What came first for you?
Well, songwriting is something that drove me. When I was a kid, my grandma used to bribe me to write poetry and that kind of stuff. I mean, I was decent at it as a youngster, and she saw the ability, and so she would literally pay me to write her poems.
Give me an example.
Oh God, I can't remember any of them.
Come on, there once was a guy from Nantucket. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Roses are red, violets are blue. Some people have money, and Grandma does too. But I was kind of a quiet kid. I wasn't the athlete or anything like that, and I sort of. just sort of, I'd retreat and draw pictures, write stuff, whatever. And so that was always a base for what I wanted to do. When I went to Nashville, it was after kind of I went to a school in Atlanta beforehand, and there was a teacher we had that taught copyright law. And during the semester, he encouraged the students to bring in songs they'd written if they wanted to, and he would give them a critique. He was a songwriter himself. So a few people did, and he pulled me to the side after class one day, and this was weeks and weeks had gone by, and I brought a song in, and he never picked it, and I was starting to get a little, PO'd, and I thought, well, man, what's going on there? Well, he pulled me to the side and he said, I just want you to know that I haven't picked you for a reason. He said, I feel like what you gave me was actually really pretty good, and I didn't want to upset other people, because it's a touchy thing. I mean, obviously, but what he did do was he encouraged me to continue working on it. As a matter of fact, when I graduated school, he pulled my parents to the side and told them to, don't let him quit, And so that was a really formative thing for me, and it stuck with me. And so I always knew that I wanted to write, and I always, moving to Nashville, I wanted to get other people to record songs I had written, which I was luckily successful at. And but I always wanted to make my own records. I just wanted to be the singer-songwriter was always the guys I respected the most.
Mm-hmm.
The dudes that wrote their own stuff. And there are vocalists out there that blow my mind, and I'm extremely, in awe of. So everybody's kind of got their own thing. It's a level playing field. I don't consider myself the best singer in the world, but I think my writing and my voice kind of go together to create a thing, just like everybody has. And but yeah, I always wanted to make albums, but I wanted to be the one writing the songs. And I knew that in Nashville, especially of all places, if you could kind of establish yourself as a respected songwriter, first off, it opened other doors for you, and that's kind of what helped me get a record deal initially. So it's been a long journey, and it's a lot of good teaching moments in there, But I love writing. Great writing still blows my mind.
It sounds like, you like to take control of your product, as you should. You're hands-on and you want to be involved. So it's got to be hard then when you bring a producer in. I know with Guitar for Sale, you brought in a new producer. Yeah. How about Honky Tonk Heart? Is it somebody else yet
Same
again?
Guy.
Same guy.
As
So you
last
must have
time.
done well and liked the relationship. Because when somebody else is changing your words and say, give me a little more of that and a little less of that, and where you were at when you wrote that song, that's got to be a difficult...
Well, I don't have anybody ever trying to change my words. What I do have with some producers in the past is maybe their vision for how something should sound, the type of instrumentation that should be used, or vocal harmonies. I mean, just there's a lot of different, like, percussion parts. There's a lot of different things that some producers can be very good at that might not necessarily be exactly what I'm hearing. And one of the things that's been important to me, all along, is to be able to recreate what we have on record in a live situation. So for one thing, I don't want to go in there with an 8-piece band, and record this huge track with all this stuff on it, and then be expected to take 8 guys out on the road and be broke as hell because I can't afford to pay everybody. And that's I like a tighter unit, a smaller crowd of people, and so I like to try to. Now I don't always I do like to add keys to some stuff in the studio. Now I don't necessarily take a keyboard player out with me as much. And a lot of times that's as much an economical and financial decision as anything.
Sure.
When you're independent, you're not always riding around in a bus, and we do sometimes. But I have a 15-passenger van that it's got captain's chairs and a TV, and we sleep in hotel beds, and we're fine. It just depends on the economics of the trip and where we're going and how much we're getting paid, But it is a different lifestyle than say the guys out on the road with 4 tractor trailers and 3 buses and whatever.
Sure.
Which is, essentially years ago when I got the record deal, everybody dreams of that level of success.
Mm-hmm.
But when you realize the things that you have to compromise to do it that way, some of us either can or we can't, or we refuse to. And I kind of went down the path of saying, you know what, I want to keep control of everything, and I want to love what I'm doing 10, 20 years from now. I've got a handful of friends I won't mention in Nashville who are very successful now that absolutely hate some of the music they're kind of forced to record to stay on the radio. And, the fact is that once you reach the level of success of a couple of these guys, not only do you have to remain, I mean, you have to keep, radio has to keep playing your music to
Mm-hmm.
keep you popular. All of a sudden you've got 100 people, 100 employees working for you across the board, whether they be, part of the production crew or lighting or whatever else. These people are feeding your families and depending on you, to do that. So it becomes a question of keeping it the way it needs to be, as opposed to doing a whole lot of creative changing.
Right. More of a business than an art.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, like if, say if Luke Bryan wanted to go in and make a dirt country record, they'd be like, yeah, man, I don't think that's such a good idea.
Right.
And he realizes, too, that, if he did that, it would be taking a huge risk, and not only for him and his family, but a few others. So it becomes a different thing. And I just decided I'm going to do this my way, and I'm not going to have anybody telling me how to record, what to record. And my A&R staff is the crowd of people that's sitting in front of me at a show reacting to, the next new song I play them. If it seems like it goes over well, then, I'll try it out a few more times, and we'll probably record it at some point. And if not, I'll, throw it in file 13 and move on.
Well, speaking of getting paid, when is Honky Tonk Heart coming out?
Well, I think the single we're shooting for, and when I say single, I'm not necessarily saying that we're trying to go get it played on big radio, because that's not necessarily the plan. We love the airplay, but we realize that's a different game. I'm coming out with a single, though. We're going to basically kind of concentrate on that particular song. We'll shoot video footage and whatever else, and most likely it'll be a big social media push as much as anything. So that's going to be late, probably the 3rd week in October, and and after that we'll kind of roll out the rest of them as we go. I'm doing what they also call a pledge campaign. Some people may know about that. If you go to pledge.com, you can look me up. That's where fans kind of get in on the action early. They'll maybe buy bundles and different things that we offer in exchange for some upfront funds, pre-orders, that kind of stuff, to sort of help the business keep rolling along and everybody benefits. So that's another thing I would encourage people to look into if you get a chance.
You said it's pledge.com.
Pledge.com. Yeah.
Okay. And how about your website?
My website is rayscott.com. I'm also Ray Scott. I have an artist page on Facebook. I have an Instagram page called Ray Scott Music. And on Twitter, I'm at RealityCheck.
Reality, I like that.
Reality. That was the name of one of my albums.
Outstanding.
So
awesome.
that's my life, man. My
That's your
existence. It's a reality.
You are reality.
Exactly.
Would you do another song for us? We got time
Absolutely.
for one more?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Let's see. I want to do. I'll do one that was a kind of a big success for me a few years back, mainly because of Sirius XM and some stations actually across the U.S. A lot of them played this, and also had a big hit over in Europe with it as well. So this is kind of when we had success with this song, I kind of became a pickup line guy, because it's kind of based on a pickup line. But anyway, a lot of folks know this one. We'll play it now. 1, 2, 3, 4. was out at the Long Branch and I was talking to this girl. Every hound dog in the joint was sniffing round her. I was playing it slow and cool, being the gentleman you know I am. Well, then this grease ball with long black slick back hair, he walked up to her like I wasn't even standing there. And he looked her up and down and cocked his eyebrow and he says, "Baby, damn, how do you get in those jeans? Mercy, you looking fine. How do you get in those jeans, baby? Tell me, how do I?" She looked at him and smiled and said, "I thought you'd never ask." He looked at me and said, "That's how it's done, son, just like that." Well, I wanted to be mad at him, but to tell you the truth, hell, I was really kind of impressed. He said, "You might get slapped 9 times out of 10, but there's always one that wants a no BS kind of man." So I walked up to the next girl I saw that wasn't wearing a dress, and y'all know what I said. "How do you get in those jeans? Mercy, you looking fine. How do you get in those jeans, baby? Tell me, how do I?" Play it, kid. Well, I woke up later in a hospital bed, a half-pound of gauze wrapped around my sore head. Some of my teeth were gone and I was drinking mashed taters through a straw. It turns out the girl I propositioned had a man with a chip on his shoulder and a blunt object in his hand, who proceeded to express his disapproval of the lines that I crossed. Well, they told me I could leave, so I put my clothes back on. I stumbled past the waiting room just minding my own. Then this overnourished night nurse from out of nowhere comes up to me and she says, "Excuse me, Ray, but how do you get in those jeans? Mercy, you looking fine. How do you get in those jeans, baby? Tell me, how do I?" Well, I did need a ride home after all, y'all. Don't judge me now.
Yeah, 2011, right?
Yeah.
Those Jeans from Royalty.
Yeah, man.
That was awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for doing that song.
Yeah, thanks for having
And
me.
congratulations on all the success. You know, Guitar for Sale's out. It's been out for a year, and the upcoming album is Honky Tonk Heart, and that's coming out
Coming
2019.
soon. I would say, I'd say look forward probably the first of the year. Like I said, the first single, Honky Tonk Heart, will be October. So
Well, thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray Scott, for coming on the show.
thanks for having me. I appreciate
You're
it.
watching Border Crossings. I'm Larry London. Thanks for tuning in.